In this video, I'm going to show you how to deploy the apps you've been building on your local machine running on, localhost live to the internet with your own domain name on any of the popular third-party platforms or whatnot. I'm going to first go over the basics. I'm going to start for beginners, non-developers, and then talk about some platforms, what you need, what you don't. And then I'm actually going to do a full walkthrough, start to finish, so it's live on the internet. Hello, I'm Pete from Codes with AI, and I am ready to deploy. Let's go. All right, let's start with some beginner basics. First up, what is deploying? It means taking the app, the files on your computer that are currently running on your server, i.e. your computer, to the internet that is hosted with some other third-party service you pay for, or maybe it's free, live on the internet. Taking your app from your machine and moving it to the internet. Just basics. So types of applications, and of course your framework, your programming language that you've used or whatever, these determine where you can host your apps. Now, if you're using something popular like Next.js or SvelteKit, which is what I'm going to use, that's my bread and butter, there's tons of options, right? There's tons of options. But if you have something really, really specific, you're going to need to check which platforms you can use and the type of application. So static versus dynamic sites. This is important, especially if you're looking at Cloudflare pages. As a free provider, you can only really do static sites. Static basically just means the information you show is the same for every user, basically, right? You can still do JavaScript and stuff. It's not just HTML and CSS, but you're not querying data from a database and showing usernames and user emails and then that sort of stuff. Dynamic obviously just means the content changes per user, or that's a dumbed down approach to it, but that's basically what that means. This informs where you can host and deploy your site. We're going to Google this in a minute just to make sure our site can be deployed to various platforms, but just so you know. Runtimes is another thing. This is not a big deal. I'm not really going to go too deep on this, but basically you can think of this like the environment where your code runs. JavaScript, Node.js. You have to have a Node.js runtime or something that supports built on those engines. I don't know, this gets really complicated, but the point is if you use Python, you're going to have to find somewhere that has a Python runtime or something that can support running your Python code. And basically, we're going to Google this in just a minute just to make sure. We're going to choose a platform and then make sure that it's going to support our code. Build logs it's kind of exactly what it sounds like. You've been coding, you've been seeing logs right here or maybe in the browser. Well, every time you build your app using one of these platforms, they're going to be build logs that show you what's happening. You're going to need to, you're going to live there. You're going to live there because you might get an error or two. Just know that you're going to be searching for build logs. I'll show you that in a second. Environment variables, the .env file in our code right here has an OpenAI API key, which I will delete after this video is done, so don't bother trying to copy it. Make sure, because this isn't going to be uploaded with the rest of your code, you're going to have to add this manually, basically, in your platform. I will show you how to do this in a minute, but don't forget that because it will kick back errors. It'll be like, oh, build logs, you're missing your API key or whatnot. And then GitHub. I'm going to do a separate video on Git and GitHub for beginners, non-developers really. But I think this is the most beginner-friendly way to connect your code to these third-party platforms. I'll show you what I mean with this. We're going to be auto-deploying, where in order to deploy changes, you can just do git push in your terminal on your local machine. You can push to GitHub, and then your platform, Vercel, Netlify, or whatever, will automatically listen for that update, for that git push, and then update your app. So let's go through here. Platforms. There are a ton. It's not limited to these right here. These are the ones that I have personally used. These are basically services, most of which have free plans, where you can host your files, or really have a server that will run your code. It's going to pull your code from GitHub. It's going to run the builds, and then it's going to use a server to do your code. Okay. Vercel, Netlify, Render Web Services. There's also a separate one for static sites on Render. I can't remember exactly what it's called right now. Railway, Cloudflare. You can use Cloudflare for dynamic sites, but you have to really get finicky with Cloudflare workers or whatnot. But for Cloudflare pages, I should put that in here. It's a separate, sort of a separate product. It's mostly for static sites, a personal portfolio, that sort of stuff. Okay, now the big part of all this is, what do you need from these apps? All of these have free plans, but they also cost money. There's a couple of things to consider. Number one, just some basic limits, which you can just look at Netlify pricing, and it'll show you this stuff. One big one is your app live 24/7? I can't remember what this is called. Up and running. Why is the name blanking on me? I don't actually remember. So render, for example, render web service. If there's inactivity for your app, let's say that no one visits your URL, no one visits your app in, I don't know what it is. It's like an hour or something like that. It will power down. And then the next time somebody goes to your URL and hits enter, it will not show up right away. It will literally have to run all the build step. That's the free plan on render. Like Netlify, and I know Vercel free ones, it doesn't matter. Your app is live no matter what. It's super annoying. If somebody came to your app and had to wait 2 minutes, that'd be horrible. So just something to keep in mind there. And then there's like storage space for files like images or videos or whatever. That's really it, honestly. Another one might be timeouts. For example, if you use AI like ChatGPT or Anthropic or whatever, if you have code that takes a really long time to get a response from, let's say, an API like OpenAI, you might want to check the timeout limits. For example, it might be on some of these free plans, especially, I don't know if there are timeouts here. It might be like 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. And if your API call takes longer than that, it's going to kick back an error. Another one would be logs. If you have customers, they're going to be asking questions and encountering errors. You want to have logs available for X amount of days. You can see team audit logs with 7-day history, and then after 7 days, they're deleted. But that's the paid plan. I don't know how long the logs last, but that's something to be aware of. Last thing would be pricing if your app grows. So all these have free plans, and Vercel and Railway Netlify especially, they don't have like $5 a month plans. There's free, and then it's like $20, $29, $25 plans and stuff like that. Netlify has a $20 a month. But just know, once your app starts growing, they take advantage of this, right? They want your app to grow, and if it does, and you pass these basic limits and you need to upgrade, it can usually cost a bit of money. Just so you know. So just check that out. All right, is your app going to start small? If so, I recommend Vercel if your language and framework supports it, of course. And again, just Google it, right? If you're on React, Google React deploy to, you can see I've searched it before, Vercel. And then you can, there we go, how to deploy a React site with Vercel. Apparently it supports it, and so on and so forth. So let's move on to the walkthrough. Here are the basic steps. You're going to Google your documentation, both for your frameworks and possibly for the platform. Swap that. You're always going to find something on the platforms that you sign up for, but a lot of times, whatever framework you're using, whatever programming language you're using, will have its own guides or instructions or documentation for a specific platform. So for me, I'm going to do Vercel and SvelteKit. So I can literally just type in SvelteKit, deploy to Vercel, or something like that. And I'm going to have a Vercel documentation right here, probably. I'm guessing this. Yeah, there's some docs here. And then, if you wanted to, svelte.dev Vercel. Yep, so there are two sets of documentation. One is the Svelte docs, one is the Vercel docs. So I recommend going and reading, period. Follow the instructions. For example, I should probably install this adapter. I'm not going to, by the way. I should probably install this adapter in SvelteKit, running this code right here, and then updating my Svelte config file. I don't have to do that because I can use adapter auto. I know that already, but if you don't know that, go read these documents before you do anything else. It's not optional. You got to do it. Next up, sign up for your platform. I already have a Vercel account, which I will come up here. Create a new project and connect your GitHub. Now, I mentioned earlier Git and GitHub. Most of these right here are going to support auto deployments from GitHub, meaning I can make updates, I can push my code to GitHub, and it's going to automatically rebuild my app live on the internet. So I'm going to come over here to my app, which is, I'm going to run git status just to see what's going on here. I don't have anything. So let's go git init. Okay. I've initialized my Git thing here. Let's do git add all and git commit initial commit. Cool. So now I have a Git thing. I need to push it to GitHub. I'm going to fire up GitHub. I'm going to close down some of these things here. I'm going to go ahead and fire up Vercel because that's what I'm going to be using. I'm going to create a new repository called Howdy Doody. Howdy Doody. This is going to be public. You can see my code, not a problem. Create repository. And then I'm going to push from my command line here. I'm going to copy this, come over here to my app. There we go. Paste this in here. Probably need to run this again. Yep, hit enter. All right, so I just pushed all my code. Git push here. So now if I come and refresh the page, it's all on GitHub. We're good to go. There is my app. So, by the way, this is npm run dev. I'm going to show you. I specifically created something that uses the OpenAI API key because I wanted to show environment variables. Yo, sup? Thinking real hard. Well, howdy there, partner. Not much, just riding the range. Okay, so you get it. It's ridiculous. So I'm in Vercel now. I'm going to create a new project. I'm going to import my Git repository. You can also do these differently. Like you don't have to do this from Git Club, I don't think, but it's worth Googling. Like if I didn't want to use GitHub for this, you could probably do it in another way. Add GitHub account, switch Git provider. You could use some of the other Git providers if you wanted to. I always just use GitHub because it's stupid easy. And you'll notice right here, it's detecting that this is SvelteKit. So it's going to automatically, it has a framework preset. I think I wrote this down in my notes here. But the next thing is to kind of figure out what your build commands are. I didn't talk about environments, by the way. You can actually do things in production or development or whatever. I'm not going to bother with this video. But learn your build commands, i.e. your server on Vercel, like what is it going to run in order to do the stuff? For me, looks like this was the default. It detected this automatically, and now you can change your root directory, by the way, which if you have, so SvelteKit's easy. I just run my root directory. But if you're using React and you have like a MERN stack sort of application, you might have two different project folders. You might even have two different GitHub repositories or whatnot. You're gonna have to Google this if that's you, but you can kind of edit your root directory where you want to build from, etc. If I'm not gonna go into that any further in this video, but just know you might be Googling that based on your framework and that sort of stuff. So for me personally, you can override these, by the way. Vite build, it's fine. This is usually gonna be like your install command, npm install. Output directory is just like public. You don't need to bother with this most of the time. There's a lot of different frameworks that most of these tools will just have presets for. SvelteKit, Vite, looks like Vue's on there. I mean, everything, right? Next.js, React, Ionic. Like there's a ton of stuff. Angular, all that stuff. I'm just going to use the presets here because it's fine. Now, Vite build, I would usually, I don't know what it says, SvelteKit deploy to Vercel. Usually it says to run these in the docs as well. I would just suggest leaving it as this, as a preset to start. And if you get errors, then you can figure it out from there, honestly. So env, I'm going to leave blank on purpose because I want to show you the build logs and the errors. All right, so I got my account set up. I can name my project. I got my GitHub connected here. I've already connected my GitHub account, by the way. I did that. It'll prompt you to like connect a GitHub account if you have not already done that. Framework presets, etc. I'm going to leave this blank and I'm going to hit deploy. So it's not going to work because I'm not doing my env stuff, my env variables, env or whatever. So build logs are right here. It's going to give me an error right there, but I also want to, okay, there's the thing right here. Let's go home. And then, where's my thing? There it is. Howdy doody. Okay. Go in here and just, you're looking for like deployments. You can always find these sorts of things, deployments here. So I have one deployment. That's what I just tried a second ago. You can see there's an error, etc. If I tried to do it again right now, if I just hit redeploy, let's just do redeploy. Again, it's gonna give me an error, but I just wanted to show you that it'll probably have like two deployments down here. Let's actually just wait till it gives the error, which is gonna be right here. A lot of times, by the way, for these env files. If you have multiple ones, like if you're using Stripe and all the different stuff you have, you can usually just copy, Command-C, Control-C, copy this entire thing right here, and then paste it in. Okay, so there's my errors. Let's actually just see how to get there. Howdy doody, right here from my home page. There's nothing here. Deployments, you can see I have 2 deployments now, both of which were errors. This was a redeploy. If I click this, it'll have my build logs. Super important. This is where you see what went wrong. Vercel is kind of annoying because it doesn't just, there you go, it's not just showing everything. I generally start from the very beginning. Like if you see this, start up here, error during build, and then you figure out what this is, right? This is the hard part of deploying apps. You're probably going to get errors. If this is your first time doing this, Google it first or type it into ChatGPT. OpenAI API key is not exported from virtual env static private, right? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go up to the settings on howdy doody. There we go. Settings. Let's see if I can find environment variables. There's nothing here, so I'm literally just going to paste this in. There you go. Easy. If you had like 7 of them, you can just paste them all at one time. It'll generally work just fine. Of course, you can edit, you can add another, all that sort of stuff. You can also import the actual file. I don't need to do that. So I'm going to hit save. And most of the time, whenever you update environment variables, it will automatically try and redeploy. I'm guessing it did not. Okay. Usually, when you update those or add new ones, it will automatically redeploy. But apparently, it did not do it this time. Let's go back, redeploy. Find this button here, redeploy. Okay. So, build logs here on this redeployment. This should work. I'm guessing there's a chance something may not work. I don't know. I didn't actually inspect this code all too much. I mostly just used AI to generate it, of course. So, we got another error. What do we got here? Unsupported Node.js version 22. Please use Node 18 or 20. So I'm guessing, so if I'm a complete newbie, which I almost am, I'd probably just Google this to see, okay, what does that mean? How do I change my Node version or whatnot? I am guessing I can do that in my settings. So let's go to howdy doody and then go to, wait a minute, right there, Node.js version. Wow. That was easy. Let's do 20. Save. That's hilarious. Okay, that was way too easy. Learn more about Node.js version. Wait, let's just make sure it works before I say anything too fancy here. So let's go to redeploy. All right, let's figure out if this one's going to work or not. That was too easy. I feel like I should have had something else to do here. But again, just start with Google or start with ChatGPT if your build logs are kicking back errors. If this is your first time like trying to deploy an app, you're going to get random stuff like that. You're going to. It took me like 3 weeks to deploy my first app after building it. I'm pretty sure. That was before ChatGPT, but still. All right, come on, I believe in you. Successfully installed. Warning, following local dependencies. I got some dependencies here required for your app to work. That's interesting. It's not an error, it's a warning, so maybe that'll work. Deployment completed. It's not live yet, but we're going to see here. While this is working, actually, no, let's just wait. Sorry, I'll lead you on. I was going to talk about domain names. Honestly, once this is done, your app should be good. And you are usually given a domain name from Vercel or Netlify or like whatever, right? Is this done? Yes, it is ready. Okay, I'm an idiot. So, right, like it gave me these domains right here. howdydoody.vercel.app. There it is. It's technically live on the internet. It's a weird page. You could go, I'm in an incognito window and say, yo, thinking real hard. Howdy, partner, whatever. So it's live. We're deployed. Checkmate. That was easy. It's probably going to be more difficult for you. If this is your first time doing it, it absolutely will. So let's do domain names really quick. Generally speaking, you're going to want to buy a domain name from Pork Bun or Namecheap or wherever you buy your domain names. I use Namecheap and Pork Bun a lot. GoDaddy, whatever. It doesn't really matter. You are going to want to follow the directions from your platform, for me, Vercel, or whatever. For updating a domain name, you can usually just Google it. Like if you're using Netlify domain name, or custom domain name. custom domains or whatever, and it'll give you the instructions for your thing. So in Netlify, let's just find where that is. It's usually just like settings or custom domain. This is deployments. Let's just go to project. I bet it's right here. Okay, here's my domain. No. Domains +2. Maybe settings right here. Settings, domains. Here we go. Domains. There we go. So we can add, let's do, I'm not actually going to implement this, but you could do my practice core Pete. How about that? It's going to give you usually an A record and a C name record, DNS records. So I would have to go into Namecheap or GoDaddy or wherever I bought my domain name, find where it says manage DNS or update DNS. If you don't know where that is, Google it. Updating Namecheap DNS, right? How to change DNS for a domain and walk through that. Whatever it is, click manage domains, update the name server, or not name servers. Usually it's like advanced DNS, where you see the actual records like this stuff. A record, sorry, those are name servers. Okay, well, I'll show you on Vercel then. Fine. Add www and redirect to that one. That's fine. Let's click add. All right. It's going to give you an A record, which will be A, and then at. This will be name or host or something. And then this is like the last column. These are usually called something different, but just think of them as columns. An A record, host name at, just the at, and then this value. And then another CNAME record, www, not at, but www, and then this value. And usually you can just hit save on Namecheap or GoDaddy or wherever, and that's it. You wait usually it's like 5 to 10 minutes, although sometimes up to like 24 hours or whatever. And that's it. That's your custom domain, period. So that's all I got, really. Troubleshooting, you're basically on your own, but don't forget to add your .env and variables, whatever that stuff is. A lot of times I'll find that I have missing images or references to stuff, references to broken links on your site, or broken images where you didn't actually upload an image, but you were linking to one, or just all sorts of stuff can pop up. Missing stuff. I found a lot of errors doing that. Node.js version, you can see I've done that one here. You're honestly just going to have to figure these things out on your own. You're just going to be Googling a lot and figuring that stuff out. So now, if I want to update this app, I would do some updates or whatever. I would make I would do git add, and then add the file, or git add all, and then I would do a git commit, name your changes, whatever that is, and then git push straight to GitHub. And once you do that, it's going to update. It's actually going to run this process all over again. It's going to start another build. Why is that giving me that? Okay, there we go. Only a few errors there. It's going to run all of this over again, and then you should be good to go. And that's it. So hashtag comment, like, subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I love you guys. It would send positive messages not only to YouTube algorithms, but also Pete and his brain if you guys subscribe to my channel. I love you guys. Let me know if you have questions. Feel free to drop them in the comments. And other than that, happy deploying, my friends. We'll see you next time. Adios.